Can you please mute your laptop? Okay, we will call to order the Wednesday, November 15th, 2023, 1:30 p.m. Canvassing Board meeting being held at King County Elections Headquarters here in Renton, Washington for the November 7th, 2023 general election. I am Canvassing Board member Janice Case, Deputy Director, filling in for Director Julie Wise, who has recused herself from this meeting as she was on the ballot for this election. With me, I have Canvassing Board member Kimberly Frederick, Chief Civil Deputy in the Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and Stephanie Sirkovich, Chief of Staff to the King County Council. We are staffed today by Geraldine Hampton, our King County Elections Ballot Processing Manager. This meeting is being live streamed via the King County Elections Facebook page and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel after this meeting. We have a very full agenda for today's meeting, but before we get into that, I just wanted to bring to the Canvassing Board's attention that on Monday, November 13th, voters and elected officials informed King County Elections of concerns that a USPS mailbox located at 15th and John on Capitol Hill in Seattle had not been emptied during the voting period. King County Elections immediately reached out to USPS to learn more. USPS investigated and reported back to us that the mailbox had not been opened since mid-October. They retrieved the ballots and delivered them to our office on Tuesday, November 14th. According to state law, King County Elections may examine any ballots we receive from USPS to determine the ballot's possible eligibility. If a ballot does not include a postmark, we look to the orange processing barcode for further information. If a ballot does not have the orange barcode, under state law, we may accept the date provided on the signature line. We received 85 ballots in total from USPS on November 14th, and all 85 ballots featured a signature date of Election Day or earlier. All 85 ballots will continue through processing, and ballots that pass the signature verification process will be counted. Okay, so now I will turn it over to Geraldine for the first item on our agenda, which is the ballot drop box item. And also, just as a reminder, let's all please speak into our provided mics. We want to ensure that those streaming in can hear us clearly. Thank you.
Okay, first or second item on the agenda is item DB-9001. It's an incident report regarding an unsecured ballot. So I'll give a summary first. On Tuesday, November 7th, 2023, one of our driver teams, Driver Team 21, made up of Jules James and Phillips Maxfield, were stationed at the University of Washington Schmitz Hall ballot drop box as our closers for that night, the drop box closers. In addition to helping voters return ballots in the drop box, the team had a pre-deployed blue ballot collection bag, a mobile bag designed to accept on-time ballots and retrieve overflow ballots in the drop box. Driver Team 21 was tasked with emptying the drop box of all ballots after closing, as well as the Waterway 19 drop box, and retrieving ballots from the University of Washington Student Engagement Hub. They closed the University of Washington Schmitz Hall box seemingly without incident, although the following morning, as King County election staff were reviewing and emptying the closer supply bins, a signed ballot packet was found in the closer supply bin for University of Washington Schmitz Hall. Some more details about this event are as follows. At 7:45 p.m., Jules placed the blue ballot collection bag on top of the closed supply bin. Then at 7:55, so 10 minutes later, a voter approached Jules requesting a replacement ballot envelope. At that time, Jules removed the blue ballot collection bag from the top and opened the supply bin while he searched for the replacement ballot envelope in his pack of supplies. Jules spent the next few minutes going through the replacement envelopes for different languages, looking for English, inadvertently making it appear as though the bin was full of ballot packets. Jules was positioned near the access door of the drop box with his back to the small set of stairs leading up to the street level right of way. In the 3 minutes while he had the supply bin open and was searching for the correct language envelope, he believes that someone could have tossed their ballot in his supply bin from either direction behind him, thinking that it was a bin full of ballot packets. He did not notice it happening at that time. The ballot was discovered at the bottom of the supply bin underneath the supplies the next morning as other teams were clearing out the closed supply bins. Phillips Maxfield, the co-pilot, and the other staffer at the location witnessed Jules helping the voter with the replacement ballot envelope, but did not recall seeing any voter who might have tossed the ballot into the supply bin. Forwarding to Wednesday, November 8th, at approximately 10 a.m., another staffer cleaning out the supply bins came across the marked ballot envelope. The ballot found was from voter Benjamin Burton Kerr at the bottom of a supply bin in an unsecured part of the warehouse. We have attempted to contact this voter, but we haven't heard back from Benjamin. So the decision we're looking for from the canvassing board is around this ballot. It is unknown if the ballot was intended to be placed in a ballot collection bin, and if so, if the ballot was deposited before or after the 8 o'clock deadline. Should this ballot be processed as returned too late, or do we want to process it as returned on time?
Can I ask a few questions?
Please do.
So just to understand what receptacles there were or what different things they had right there in the vicinity, there was a blue ballot collection bag and a supply bin, which I'm assuming is like a box with extra envelopes and different things like that in there. And then there's the ballot box itself. So
Yeah, the supply bin is a clear plastic tote that's the same kind of device that we transport those ballots back when we clean out the ballot drop boxes.
so there were those three receptacles in general. And when I thought about this, I was thinking, where else could that ballot have come from, right? If the supply bin probably didn't get to that location with a ballot in it, right? I mean, it was just with supplies in it. The bag, it wouldn't have been in the bag carrying it there. It wouldn't have been. So it had to come from somewhere and make its way into that supply bin. So I think it seems logical that it could have just been dropped in there. Somebody could have just in passing dropped it in there thinking, oh, they're picking up ballots. But yeah, that was my take on it.
Do we know what time they ended up leaving the location? Was it possible that it could have been 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. if somebody kind of accidentally put it in there thinking the ballot box was still open?
It was a driver team, so after they completed closing the box at 8 o'clock, they would have also then have to empty that ballot drop box location before proceeding to the next location. So it was definitely after 8 o'clock before they left.
Okay, and so he was looking through the supply bin at what time do we know approximately? Was it around? So at 7:55, a voter approached requesting a replacement ballot. So this was all, I'm trying to think of timing when this was happening. So he would have helped the voter at 7:55, gone into the supply bin, given them what they needed, and then they would have presumably started kind of packing up and pulling everything together. Okay.
Since the ballot collection person was distracted and the other person doesn't recall seeing anything one way or the other, it seems like it's possible somebody, because of the distraction, could have put the ballot in there within the appropriate amount of time. There's really no way of verifying one way or the other. So I would lean towards counting it, because it's kind of, our people were distracted and not able to really verify, and to err on the side of caution so that somebody's vote isn't mistakenly not counted. If it was valid, I would lean towards counting this as a valid on-time ballot.
I would agree, and also where else would it have come from, right? You know, it makes sense that I would think they would notice it if it was well after 8 o'clock and they were, you know, I think that just the timing, it
Yes.
makes sense that it probably all happened kind of simultaneously. And so I think that, I just don't know where else it would have materialized. It doesn't sound like it would have been dropped or lost, or it wouldn't have it had to have come from the ballot box vicinity.
Right. So do we all agree that we should accept this ballot?
I agree.
I make a motion for the King County election staff to accept the ballot as on time.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll get you to sign this. Thank you. Okay, moving on to another item, item B-0001. This is a request from staff to the canvassing board for a ruling on our internal standards on how we deal with hesitation marks. So you have a document in front of you. The voter intent guide does not include a verbal standard for hesitation marks. Instead, it has 3 examples of marks that it describes as hesitation marks. So you can see the first example there for Rule A, Exception 2, examples 1A and B, showing a completely filled in target area and then a little dot in another target area. Then there's a second example on that page at the bottom showing a completely filled in target area and then a secondary target area with a little more of a line in there, more of a line. On the back of the page, you can see an example with a completely filled in target area, and the secondary target area has about a quarter of the target area filled in. So what we have used, the guide doesn't include any examples of hesitation marks where there's not a secondary target area filled in, but the voter fatigue rule implies the existence of votes that are hesitation marks, even when no other target area is marked. Otherwise, we wouldn't need a voter fatigue rule. So this makes it difficult for us to consistently evaluate voter marks without a verbal standard for us to train our staff. The verbal standard that we think best helps us consistently apply the rule is below. Marks are hesitation marks if there's another target area filled in and it's analogous to the marks on pages 13 through 15, so those examples that we looked at in the voter intent manual. Or if the ink fills more than a quarter of the bubble, it's a vote. If not, it's a hesitation mark. So that's if you've got one target area filled in and one is partially filled in. If no other target area is marked, a mark is a hesitation mark if there is no movement or only incidental movement of the pen, is our proposed standard. So the question we have for you is, does this sound like a reasonable internal standard for us to look at hesitation marks, or does it not sound like an acceptable standard and we should reevaluate and come up with something else?
My only question is about patterns. Does it intersect with patterns at all? If there's like just a little tiny mark in each bubble, that doesn't get confused with this in any way, does it?
It does not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this verbal standard makes sense to me and helps to kind of alleviate any ambiguity that aren't addressed by the voter intent guide.
Yeah, sounds good. I agree.
I move that we, members of the King County Canvassing Board, direct staff to use the proposed clarified standard on hesitation marks while reviewing the voter intent on ballots.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And as an informational follow-up to that, we here at King put together suggestions regularly for the Secretary of State's office when they are coming up with updates to the voter intent manual. So we have provided them some examples we would like to see to make it easier for everybody to be consistent. You have a bad pen? Yeah. Can you get a different green pen for Janice? There should be some in the cabinet. All right, we're going to move on to our voter intent ballots. I should put my stack on this side. All right, first voter intent ballot to review is B-0002. We've got one item on the front for Seattle Proposition number 1. This long ballot, okay. Seattle Proposition 1, what's the vote? So this is one of those messy mark situations that if you wanted to look up in the book, it's on page 72, Rule Q about messy marks. Basically, it tells us if there's more of a mark in one target area over another, that would be the vote.
I got my tools out.
Well, I think this is a tough one because it seems to be there's maybe you could say there's a little bit more in the no bubble, but I think that's only because there's like this very scribbly loop that goes down. I mean, I think it's kind of this is on the line. I mean, it's right in between, and I think there's the same, you could say, the same percentage of mark in the yes bubble and the no bubble. So I would not be able to determine the voter's intent from this mark.
I agree. I think the shape of the mark in the no makes it look like there's more in there than there actually is just because of the shape. But when you look with the magnifying glass, you can see that there's also a lot, the same amount of ink in the yes.
Yeah.
So you can have it be an overvote or an undervote, whichever feels most appropriate.
I defer to the team.
I mean,
Stephen.
an overvote would mean that they filled in both bubbles. An undervote would be they didn't really
Didn't fill in any.
And I guess overvote. Could be either one.
You can put an OV in there.
Can I get a motion?
Oh, you
Or
don't
no?
need a
We
motion
just
for
do these
each
all at
ballot.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are marking this race as an overvote. And do we sign now?
You don't have to sign that. Nope. We're just going to make a mark in each response area, or a circle if it's for one of the responses. So that was an overvote for Seattle Prop 1. We're moving on to the next ballot, which is B-0003. And we've got one item on the front. It's another messy mark question, similar circumstance. There is some mark in both of the response options. So this question is for Director of Election contest.
think this one is also, it's obviously in between, but I think there's more ink in the Doug Basler bubble than the Julie Wise bubble.
I agree.
Same. So we agree this is a vote for Doug Basler?
Yes.
Yes.
Do I just point?
You can circle the candidate. Yeah. All right, so that was a vote for Doug Basler for Director of Elections. We're moving on to the next item, B-0004. We have one item on the front for City of Mercer Island Council position number 5. So again, with the messy marks, a low fluency voter, there's some mark in both of the responses there.
On the screen, I thought it was going to be an overvote. It looked like there were marks in both bubbles. But then when I looked at it a little more closely, it seems like the ink is really in the top bubble.
I agree. Craig Reynolds.
So a vote for Craig Reynolds for City of Mercer Island Council position number 5.
Okay, so now we are on to item B-0005. We have two items on the front, one for Seattle Commissioner position number 5. I guess that's Port of Seattle. And then City of Seattle Prop 1. Let's see if we can get them both on the screen at once. Yes, here we go. We are in the messy mark section, so continuation of that.
Geraldine, can you show the back of the ballot as well? I just want to see
This
if
one
anything-
has nothing on
Okay.
the back.
It just kind of looked like one might be a bleed through, so I just wanted to.
I think the ink is all over the place in those.
You know, I see in both of these, there is one that has more of, it looks like they spent more time coloring in the top selection in both, if you take a look. There's a darker mark where it looked like they spent more time in there. So I was leaning towards both of those top selections because of that.
Right. It was almost like they got a little artistic and they
Yes.
filled out and then they kind of just
Yes.
squiggled around. But, you know, taking that, then it kind of looks like they did the same thing with this one as well, right? They started in that top bubble and filled it in more solidly and then kind of squiggled down and around. So I would almost, I'm glad you pointed that out because I would say that they're both kind of the same.
So then a vote for Fred Fellman and yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So Port of Seattle Commissioner position number 5, a vote for Fred Fellman. And for City of Seattle Proposition number 1, yes.
All right. Ballot B-0006. We have 3 items, 1 on the front and 2 on the back. So we'll look at the one on the front first, which is Kent School District number 415, Director District number 3. So for the Kent contest here, we want to note that the bottom oval is an empty write-in here. So even if we felt like it was meant to be the write-in, it wouldn't be a write-in because there's no writing on the line. You have to have writing on the line to be a write-in. So the question we have is, do we think because some of the X went into Donald that it was meant to be a vote for Donald, or do we think that it was meant to be a mark for the blank write-in line? So that's the one on the front. And then on the back, we have, going down here, we have the Kent School District Proposition number 2, as well as Public Hospital District number 1, Commissioner District number 1. Similar questions about what, if any, response is the X voting for. And if we want to look at Blake write-in rule, that's on page 58. Again, the messy mark rule is on page 72.
I'm looking at the pattern of similar marks rule. For the front, I noticed there were a lot of X's in the blank write-in line. So I don't know if that's a pattern of some sort.
Right, and if all those other votes were not counted because there was no name written in the line, it would make sense to be consistent.
The entire front of the ballot is for the blank.
Right, and the X is lower. It's closer to that third
Yeah.
bubble than it is the others. And on the back,
I didn't look at the back.
it's
yet.
a little more. Yeah, it's a little more in the middle, but it still follows that pattern of marking the write-in and not writing anything in.
So for those contests on the front, what we are going to be doing with the rest of those contests are turning those contests into undervotes because it's a blank write-in. Yeah. Meaning it's not a true write-in for people listening in.
Right.
These 18-inch ballots are hard to maneuver around.
They are.
They're floppy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for those 2 write-ins, I would also consider those undervotes. For the school district, That's a harder call. It's right in between yes and no. I don't know if we're looking at that right now, if we're just focusing on the
candidate.
write-in.
Yeah, so for that one, I only saw Mark actually in the know
Same.
for the school board.
Can I take a look at that again?
And the one for the hospital district, it's one of those where we're analyzing how much has more of a mark. So I'm seeing more of a mark in the Aaron Smith Abadara, and then more of a mark in the no. If you need my light, I can pass it.
No, I've got the light. Yeah, I mean, I see where you're saying it's marginally more in Aaron Smith, Abadara. And yes, definitely more mark in the no. The bottom of the X goes into the no, where it doesn't go into the yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I believe what I have heard is write-in for Kent School District number 415, Director District number 3, which means it's actually an undervote.
Correct.
Yes. That's what I think.
For Kent School District number 415, proposition number 2, that there is more ink in the no response. So
Correct.
a vote for no.
Yes. Yes, a vote for no. Yeah.
And then I'm uncertain. I feel like I've heard it's equally in each of the write-in and Abadara.
That one's
I see more in Abadara, but take a look again.
yeah, that one's a tougher call, because we've got the top right of an X going into Aaron Smith Abadara, and then we've got the bottom right of the X. The line just happens to be a little bit longer. The stroke is a little longer this way than going that way. I mean, I don't know. This would be one where I would just say I could not determine. I couldn't determine. And
I'm fine with that.
So are we doing an overvote then, as it's in both?
right, yeah.
So Public Hospital District number 1, Commissioner District number 1,
Oh, yeah.
overvote.
Well, it wouldn't be an overvote if there's nothing in the, can I say
If
that
there's
one again?
nothing in the write-in,
Oh,
Yes.
there's nothing in the write-in.
Then it's not a overvote.
Oh, so then they did vote for the other person because there is somebody there.
Yes. Yes, that makes sense. It would be a vote for the candidate or,
because the mark went into the bubble with the
something,
candidate's
with an
name.
option.
it would be an undervote or a vote for the candidate. If you thought the mark was completely in the blank write-in line, we would call that an undervote. If you think it was for the candidate, it would be for the candidate.
What if it's for a candidate and for a blank write-in?
Then we would say it's for the candidate.
That's for the candidate.
Okay. Public Hospital District number 1, Commissioner District number 1, vote for Aaron Smith Abudara.
That was a brain teaser.
Well, they just get better from here, so. All right, this is a warm-up for you. Okay, we're on to B-0007. We've got 3 items in total, and it looks like they're all on the front. So King County Council District number 4 is the first item here, and we've also got Seattle School Director District number 1, as well as, down a little lower, we've got Seattle Schools Director District number 6, So the questions we have are the marks that extend into the candidate's name meant to be corrections, or are they just messy marks? So as they filled in the oval and they sort of squiggled over into the candidate's name. If you want to look at the rule or examples around corrections, you can go to page 34 of the voter intent manual. They'll show different examples of corrections.
To me, it looked like the first two were votes and the last was a correction. There is another mark on the ballot that's sort of similar to the first two. Does that make sense?
This one?
Yes, which was counted as a vote. The last one, because it scribbles out the entire name, it looks like a correction.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, Metropolitan King County Council District number 4, a vote for Sarah Revnald.
I'm not talking loud enough.
Seattle School District Director District number 1, a vote for Debbie Carlson. And Seattle School District number 1, Director District number 6, an undervote.
Okay, B-0008, we've got Court of Appeals, Judge number 3, Judge position number 3, sorry, here we go. And for this contest, the question is the mark here a vote for J. Michael? It isn't in the oval, but the voter is clearly low fluency, and it's an unopposed contest, so who else could it be for? The mark is similar to others. Basic low fluency blob is what we're calling it. So does Rule B, that whole pattern of similar marks, does that save it as being a vote for J. Michael? If you want to look at pattern of similar marks, that's on page 18 of the voter intent guide. They have great examples using check marks and X's, but there's no low fluency blob example in the book, but that's our question for you. That's our technical term, blob.
And there definitely is a pattern, and if you look at how this person voted in some of the others, there's the mark that starts somewhere around the circle, the bubble, and goes up. I would count this as a vote for J. Michael Diaz.
I agree. There is one selection that there's nothing marked, and that clearly is their indication that they don't wish to vote for that. So the fact that they took the effort to make the mark,
Right.
and there's only one candidate, I would count it as a vote for the candidate.
Right.
So Court of Appeals, Division number 1, District number 1, Judge position number 3, a vote for J. Michael Mike Diaz.
Next item is B-0009. We have one item on the front, and it is Renton School District number 403, Director District number 1. So is the mark here a vote for Mike Accord? It isn't in the oval, but the voter is another one that it has some fluency issues. And the vote is horizontally aligned with the oval. The mark is similar to the others on the ballot, another technical low fluency blob. So again, the question is, could Rule B be something that might save this vote also?
I would be consistent with what we, in the last one, I think this is sort of the same,
Yes.
different blob, but same.
Agreed. Renton School District number 403, Director District number 1, a vote for Mike Accord.
B-0010, we've got two items. One for Riverview School District number 407, Director District number 3, and the next one for Riverview School District number 407, Director District number 4. Same scenario as the previous ballot, where there's not ink in the oval, it's directly next to it, but on the same horizontal plane.
And the same kind of mark. That's the thing. They're making the same effort.
Yeah, I agree. When you say the same effort, I think the intention was there. They're not crossing anything out,
Right.
or it's really looks like an intention to make a mark, to make a choice.
Okay, Riverview School District number 407, Director District number 3, a vote for Carol Van Noy. And Director District number 4, a vote for Danny L. Edwards.
Next item, B-0011. We have a single item. It is King County Fire Protection District number 10, Commissioner number 4 position. Again, not in the oval itself, but next to on the same horizontal plane.
I would say the same.
Yes, it looks like a pattern of similar marks.
King County Fire Protection District number 10, Commissioner position number 4, a vote for Ray Mullen.
Moving on to B-0012, we have a single item. It is for Court of Appeals Division number 1, District number 1, position number 4. This time, the mark is a little bit farther from the response. It's not on a vertical or horizontal necessarily plane, but there is not another candidate in that contest. If you're looking for a pattern of similar marks, again, that's on page 18.
Are you wanting to see the rule about stray marks? You
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
which rule is stray marks? Do you know?
That's an exception to the first rule target,
Oh, okay.
Rule A.
Stray marks.
Although a stray mark is telling us when it's not a vote. So if a mark just happens to go through an oval, but it's not an intentional filling out the target area itself, it's telling us we're not to count it as a vote. Otherwise, that Rule A is telling us if there's ink in a target area, it's always a vote. But then they have those 4 exceptions of when there might be ink in an oval, but it's not going to be counted as a vote.
Right. And this is a
So
case
sort
where
of
the,
the opposite.
right,
Yeah.
the ink is
The
not
ink
in
is
the
not
target.
in the oval, and we don't have a clear rule.
Yeah, but
hence-
it is,
There's intent to do something.
it is a very bubble-like, I mean, it is a very intentional mark, and it is
Yes.
very, I mean, though it might not hit the bubble, it seems to me that it's consistent with a vote, that someone intended to make a vote there.
I agree.
Court of Appeals Division number 1, District number 1, Judge position number 4, a vote for Leonard Feldman.
We are now on to item B-0013. We have a single item. It is City of Auburn Council position number 1. But you're going to want to, well, probably want to take a second and look at the entirety of the ballot. But our question for you is for this single contest here. Our question for you is this a write-in? No, I'm sorry. Is this write-in that they have here, is this write-in actually a written instruction for us to count the vote for the candidate? Because the write-in says, I don't know them, but I'm going to pick one. Even though they filled in both target areas, which would normally be an overvote, because they filled in a candidate, bubbled the write-in line, and wrote on the line. But it seems like they're instructing us that they're going to just pick someone.
Yeah. Yeah, they are pretty consistent about when they're giving us instructions, filling in the bubble. And it looks like the instruction is to vote for the candidate.
Yeah, that's pretty, and it's consistent with the rest of the ballot as, you know, as they're voting, and the instructions that they're giving on the other. That makes sense.
City of Auburn Council position number 1, a vote for Cheryl Riggs.
B-0014, we've got a single item, Court of Appeals, Division Number 1, District Number 1. Wait, I left off the judge position number 2. Sorry, I only said part of that. Is the X a write-in or a written instruction to correct the lower mark? So that's the X we're talking about there. If it's a written instruction, probably the vote should be for Lori, since the upper mark touches the Lori oval right here. If it's a write-in, then we would call it an overvote, because the X would be the write-in and the 2 target areas would be filled in.
For this one, I think it's notable that there are a number of measures that the person did not make a mark in. So this to me looks like a correction, and the vote is for Lori Smith.
So you're saying that because there's a scribble above the bubble for Lori Smith, and so then there's another sort of like they drew in kind of a bubble or a circle in between Lori Smith and the write-in, and then put X next to that. And so you're saying that the X, the bubble in the middle and the X is a correction, but they are voting for Lori Smith, so they're correcting. Are they kind of
Correcting the
compensating for the scribble on top where they're already? You could maybe think they already kind of voted for Lori with that scribble up top, and so then I guess I'm not understanding what are they correcting?
I thought they were correcting the one that's underneath.
The in-between oval.
Yes.
Oh, so they might have gone into that but said, no, I don't mean to do that, and I intend to vote for Lori Smith. I mean, I think that because of this bubble above Lori Smith's name, that seems that that's who they were intending to vote for. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on in this one.
Court of Appeals, Division Number 1, District Number 1, Judge Position Number 2, a vote for Lori K. Smith.
Okay. Item B-0015, you're going to want to take a look at the entire ballot. So I didn't mark any red arrows. The question we have for you, though, are, let me just put it on the screen. So all of the contests are like this. So the question we have is, are those writings on the line that say either no vote or no, the ones that, all these that are on the write-in line, are those to be considered write-ins? Or are we going to call them instructions to undervote each contest? And they also struck through each response as well, each potential response other than the write-in line.
And a write-in would generally be, you would think, for a person, right? You know, it would be, they didn't put a person's name here. I would think because of that, it would be an undervote. Is that am I
Yeah, written
rationalizing that?
instruction
Yeah.
for an undervote for everyone.
Yeah, that they just sort of reject the whole slate.
Yes, I would add, just to add some context, that in our regular processing, we're not really looking at if it's a name or a valid person. It's just the act of writing on the line. but I definitely think it's what you want to consider while you're reviewing the ballots and
Right.
making your decisions.
Right, because, yeah, it's indicative of
Yeah.
what the intent was, yeah.
Do you need me to mark each race or just generally? Because they're all
You can
being
just
treated
put
as
a big
undervotes.
undervote. You can just put a UV on the side. Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Undervote for the entire ballot.
Next item, B-0016. This one is all candidate races except for the assessors. I'll just put this here. Is the null sign that's on the write-in line a written instruction to undervote the race, or is the null sign to be considered a write-in vote? So it's all of the candidate races, and then if we look at,
Can you just show the top for the
yes,
people at home?
the assessors is completely undervoted, and they didn't put any lines or markings in the write-in lines, and there's nothing on the back.
I feel like they're trying to communicate to us. So, so there's some sort of difference in this person's existence between having the null vote with a slash through the options and just the null vote. I don't know what that means, but there is some sort of pattern here that I'm just not picking up on.
Because those don't have anything.
They
these
don't-
ones do.
yeah.
Yeah.
See how he's crossing, or they are crossing through, but these, it's just the null vote. So I think maybe some of these are write-ins and some of these are undervotes. Write-ins for null sign.
Take a look. So where is oh, you're talking about like here, there are, the names aren't crossed out, but there's the
Yes.
null sign. Um, I guess for me, this isn't, even though they're using a symbol rather than just saying no, it's similar to the last one we looked at in my mind and my reasoning. And I think, yeah, I see what you're saying about they didn't cross out the names as well on every one of them. But for those, if we isolate those, it wouldn't be considered wouldn't it still be considered an undervote?
I think
A
because
write-in
the
for
oval is partially filled in and then they have a null, it would be counted as a write-in, correct?
It would be counted as a write-in vote.
If this was blank, it wouldn't. If the write-in line, but because they wrote on the write-in line, it's
So do you want to split the difference, and the ones that are that have the names crossed off, those would be undervotes, and the ones that don't have the names crossed off, those would be write-ins?
That's what I would do. They seem different. I think it's probably the same result in some way, but
okay. So Director of Elections, undervote. Metropolitan King County Council District Number 4, undervote. I think I picked up the wrong pen. Court of Appeals, Division Number 1, District Number 1, Judge Position Number 2, undervote. Judge Position Number 3, undervote. Judge Position Number 4, undervote. Port of Seattle, Commissioner Position Number 2, undervote. Commissioner Position Number 5, undervote. City of Seattle Council District Number 4, a vote for write-in. Seattle School District Number 1, Director District Number 1, a vote for write-in. Director District Number 2, write-in. Director District Number 3, write-in. And Director District Number 6, write-in.
Okay, 2 more to go. We are now on to B-0017. For this ballot, there's nothing on the back of it. It's all on the front. So this is looking at all unopposed contests. So this voter put slashes on the responses with the candidate oval and also on the write-in oval. Are these written instructions for us to undervote the race? Or, since a blank write-in line is never a vote, are they votes for the candidate because there's a mark in the target area for the candidate?
And is there a rule that addresses how the bubbles are filled in on some of these, you know, and they're different marks, you know, some like if someone's voting and they're using different methods?
There's not. But there is a rule about for this to be considered an overvote, having three things happen: filling in the target area for the candidate, target area for the write-in, and also writing on the line. But what looks different here for us is the fact that the slashes versus regular filling in the target area.
And that there's nothing on the write-in line, correct?
Yes, correct.
Right. My question, I guess I'm trying to figure out, does that count as a vote when clearly in other parts of the ballot, the voter
Yeah.
filled in the bubble
Correct way.
in a very intentional way?
To me, it looks like a written instruction to undervote, just because they were so intentional about
Right.
carefully selecting candidates in other races.
Right. Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't think that they would have wanted that slash to count as a vote for the
Yeah.
candidate.
Okay. County Assessor undervote. Court of Appeals, Division Number 1, District Number 1, Judge Position Number 2, undervote. Judge Position Number 3, undervote. Judge Position Number 4, undervote. Port of Seattle, Commissioner Position Number 2, undervote. And South King Fire Commissioner Position Number 5, undervote. And Lake Haven Water and Sewer District Commissioner Position Number 1, undervote.
We made it to the last ballot. It's B-0018. So this one is for all candidate races. This voter voted for a candidate in every race except for one of the Court of Appeals, Judge Position 3. So except for that one. And also wrote on a bubbled write-in line. This would ordinarily cause an overvote, again, because those three things are true. Vote for the candidate printed, writing on the line, and the write-in line being bubbled in. So it would normally cause an overvote, but in the context of the ballot, it looks like they thought they needed to write on the write-in line for their vote to be counted. So in every write-in line, there's some variant of U.S. citizen staff or U.S. citizen judge. In the past, we've seen similar ballots, very similar to this ballot, where the write-in line said yes is a U.S. citizen, and the canvassing board in that instance decided they were not write-in votes and they were counted for the candidate votes. Sort of like a pattern of similar marks for the candidate. So that's our question. Can we count the votes for the candidates, or are they true write-ins, which would then turn these into overvote situation? And there is, we read this closely. By we, I mean John, and there are no votes in the writing on the back of the ballot.
But I'm so curious what it says.
Yeah, I think again we've got a very intentional filling out of a bubble for a candidate, for an identifiable candidate, and it's almost like they're reinforcing that vote and adding a little extra oomph to it by filling out the write-in and just affirming their vote.
I agree.
So for all candidate races, it's a vote for the candidate that they filled in the bubble for and not a write-in line. Do I need to read all of the races?
No.
Okay.
I make a motion for the King County election staff to count the ballots as marked.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I don't have the little yellow slip. We'll take your verbal motion as fine. All right, so that was it for the voter intent ballots. We now have for the board a request to get delegated authority for ballot processing activities and also recounts for the upcoming 2024 year election cycle. I'll give you both of them.
Do we need the motion
Do we
first?
do the motion first or do we sign first?
Read the motion, then sign. Yeah. Or read the.
I move that we,
Yes.
the members of the King County Canvassing Board, authorize election staff to conduct their ballot processing activities adhering to the rules and guidelines detailed in the King County Canvassing Board Administrative Rules for all elections held in 2024.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's gonna be another.
I move that we, the members of the King County Canvassing Board, authorize election staff to, at any time a recount is called, provide notice of the recount, continue to work, to set costs, and to complete the election adhering to the rules and guidelines detailed in the King County Canvassing Board Administrative Rules for all elections held in 2024.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any further business?
I have nothing more for the board today.
This canvassing board meeting is then adjourned at 2:38 p.m. on November 15th. Thank you. For some reason, I thought it was the 14th. On November 15th, 2023. Our next meeting will be on November 27th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. here at King County Elections Headquarters.